58 years after it was open to traffic, it's in such a deplorable state. And this will not be the first time we've been talking about it. In fact, in 2021, we were promised, constructions were going to start. It moved to 2022, and we're in 2023 and nothing is happening. This morning, we're joined on phone by Engineer Abdulai Mahama, who is a civil engineer and construction consultant, and also Engineer David Adonteng, who is Acting Director General of the National Road Safety Authority. Engineer Adonteng, Engineer Mahama, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you, and good morning.
Let me start off with you, Engineer David Adonteng, and I know you've been using the Accra-Tema Motorway. Whenever you use the motorway, how does it feel?
Well, good morning once again, and I think that the motorway that we all know of from the past number of years, decades, that we all got to know of it from the first time to now, there has been a very significant change in the road environment. The corridor has completely now become more like an urbanized area, a corridor that used to be a fast corridor. The road itself, a very fast lane expressway, and we all know the history of it. The construction was for, in terms of function, was for goods and services all the way from Tema, the harbour in particular, to be transported very quickly through the Tema, through Accra, and to the various destinations. I think now, when you go on it and you see how the road has deteriorated in terms of the structure, the surface, and then particularly the land use. People have moved in from all various areas. Now they are settling, the building, the construction, the businesses that are opening up, the kind of accesses that people are opening to their various facilities. And now the last time I used it was over the weekend. Now you find thought-floors, these are our own thought-floors, stopping for people to drop and others to board. You see people selling, hawking on the motorway, and also organizers now setting up their businesses and so on. I think that is a horrible thing, particularly if you think of the speed that people are running over the corridor to traverse it, and at the same time, pedestrian crossing and so on. I think it's a very curious.
So now that you say it's horrible, is that road safe for the users of the road?
I think for you are aware that in the past number of years, the past 3-4 years, that the National Safety Authority has been advocating for safety on our roads. The motorway in particular has been one of the corridors that we have mentioned as becoming notorious in terms of the number of casualties we are recording on that particular stretch. For some time somewhere last few years, there was no week that goes without, recording a crash on that road. So I must say that in terms of safety, it is one of the most to the phone crash, roads in Ghana. I must say the motorway it's not as safe as we all need.
So does it meet the standards of road safety?
I think it's completely lost its function. I must be frank. The function, the purpose for constructing the motorway has now lost the kind of function that it used to. An expressway is no longer an expressway. The way the road is now currently, I must say that people should not have the same thoughts that we had when the road came up the first time. The surface was good speed. And now the limit, as we put it, is 100 kilometers per hour maximum speed limit. But I wonder if you can even go that limit. And so sometimes I get surprised why people are still speeding at that speed level, and even going beyond 120, 140, 150, even some of them 180. And I'm surprised why in this condition, we find people risking their lives in that manner.
Now, Engineer Adonteng, you've talked about how the road is not safe, it's not meeting the standards, and you've been running the campaign. And I mean, talking about meeting standards, I know that recently you've actually issued directives to, urban roads to be fixing the traffic lights and everything. What about the motorway?
Yes, I think that I am happy to say and confirm that a number of interactions we've had with the Ministry of Roads and Highways and the Ghana Highway Authority in particular clearly demonstrates the commitment by the Minister of Roads and Highways to transform that corridor. In fact, we've come across a number of designs from the Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Roads and Highways, the Ghana Highway Authority, Department of Urban Roads, and we are convinced that in the coming years, if government is able to fix it the way the designs that we have come across, then it will be one of the fantastic corridors in the country and even in West Africa. Because you are seeing that the road has been widened in terms of design. You look at some interchanges that are coming up all the way from the roundabout, the roundabout side to the Accra side, and how the people will traverse across the corridor to the various interchanges going to East Legon and the rest. I think that once the commitment is there and is demonstrating that government in the near future will transform the corridor, I think that is good news for us. For now, we will say that it's a difficult corridor to traverse. Yes.
Yes, but for a lot of the persons listening to me, they're thinking about the now. Because when they close from work, they're going to be using that same road again.
I think that you are right. You're absolutely right. But what to make us feel a bit comfortable is that it is something everybody is seeing. It is not secret because we all use it. We also have the statistics to prove clearly that the crashes are happening. In recent times, you see a number of them, vehicles somersaulting because of bedside. And if you have a concrete surface, when it gets heated up and with all this metal within this opening up, the danger is that one vehicle tire can run on it and anything could happen. We've come across a number of bedside crashes related. And so, but what I will say is that government demonstrating and knowing that there's a problem and it's ready to fix it, it's a matter of time. Once the time comes and it is done, then all of us will get the relief. But for now, the situation is not safe. And so that is the more reason why we come up all the time to advise motorists. In fact, it is not like we are not engaging the ministry. We are. We do engage the ministry a couple of times. Once in a while, the ministry comes up to fill some of the potholes, of course, using bitumen and overlays and so on. But I'm saying that once the problem, we all know the problem exists. The road surface is deteriorated somehow. The people are now settling around the road with the kind of authority to protect that corridor. What we need to do as motorists is to be alert. We should focus. We should concentrate. And we should comply with the rules and regulations of using the road, especially as kids. So now there is mixed traffic. If you follow trucks, now instead of them moving from the inner lane to the outer lane, they remain on the inner lane from the beginning to the end of the stretch. And so it becomes a bit uncontrolled somehow. Okay. So I think we need to be very careful when we're using that road. And I think we've alerted motorists a couple of times. So people are aware, unless those who are recalcitrant.
Okay, let me bring in Engineer Mahama. Engineer Mahama, and I mean, this would not be the first time we are having this conversation. We've been having it. I mean, what's the difficulty? In the interim, while we wait for the reconstruction, isn't there anything we can do to make it motorable and reduce the discomfort on the road?
Well, I'll say a good morning to your cherished listeners and yourself and your crew, your other people at the studios. I think the last time we had a discussion on this, I just gave some few recommendations to government that I'm well informed that an expert in some of these treatments introduced a certain chemical that could have been used to more or less patch all the potholes and then put on the surface a lean asphalt overlay in the interim as government awaits the monies that is earmarked for the construction. I'm looking at the difficulties that the country is facing now. I've seen documents, drawings. Initially was JICA, Japanese firm, blah, blah, and South Africa came in, some consultants. And I think that if government knows that they're not going to have the monies for the work in the next 2 years or so, they may have to fall onto the information available. What I'm saying, they are aware. The Ghana Highways Authority have been abreast with that technical suggestion, or maybe remedial, a temporary remedial that can take, say, a year or 2 or 3, so that the riding quality of the motorway would be improved. We are talking about $570 million United States dollars, and this figure has been with us for almost like 2 years. I am even thinking that before they will commence the project, that figure would have gone much higher, because this was started around in 2021. And we all know what has happened over the past last year, from like April till now. The escalation of prices in bituminous substances, and the bitumen that we are going to use for the proper asphalt itself constitute a significant quantity in terms of the finances, because that is when you are doing all the pavement structure, where we have enough or a lot of money actually being sunk down, is when you go to the bituminous surfaces, where you have the 3 layers, in this case, the dense bituminous macadam, which is the first layer, onto the crash rock or the gravel. Then you come to what we call the DBM, which comes the binder, and then you come to the last layer, which is actually in contact with the ties, which is called the wearing. And all these 3 material is basically chippings and then bitumen. And once the bitumen becomes a significant portion of the pavement, obviously the price would go high. Now, 2 days ago I was on Joy News and we raised the same issue. And I said, when we have issues with thievery, where we put in the lightning system, at least to be able to minimize the accidents on the motorway, and day in and out, we have guys coming in the night to remove the cables, copper and lead to go and sell. I have seen a lot of the street lights which are now solar powered. When you go to the wager towards the Kaswa bypass, all the lights on that stretch are solar powered. So in the interim, if we really value the lives of people and want to at least illuminate the area to augment the light, the vehicular light, we may have to get these solar powered lights, street lights, and then put them across along the length and breadth of the motorway, so that we can minimize the accidents that are recorded in the evenings. The other thing is, the design that we have seen, it's nice, it's such okay. We see that the express lanes and then the service lanes at the extreme ends. But the 3 or 4 assemblies, the Ashaiman, the Ayawaso West Wogon, the Tema East and Tema West, who are fortunate to have this motorway traversing their corridor, may have to desist from the constant issuance of permits for structures which are coming close, expropriating the land that are earmarked for the construction of the motorway. I have come across documents where, assuming that a price of the road should be about $100 million, the extent of encroachment, the demolition and compensation and relocations amount to about $20 million, that's one fifth of the cost of a project. So in as much as government is struggling to realize the monies for the past 8, 9, 10 years or so, the assemblies are not also helping us. Because what happens is that when government finally gets money for the construction, we're going to collect a lot of water because we are widening the surface of the road and then increasing the lack of infiltration of water into the ground, thereby raising the flood waters or the runoff higher. If we don't get better low-lying areas to connect to the streams and ponds within the motorway, we will have what I termed about 4 years ago, that we have localized and sectional floods on the motorway. In the event that government want to eliminate this challenge, a lot of buildings may have to be compensated to be demolished before government to do that. But let's just give one example, one advice to everybody. The motorway has lost its design speed because the motorway is gone. Now, it is only proper, like my colleague engineer said, that we have to apply our common sense. A lot of the people who are using the motorway are not first-time users, but so strange that they are doing over 120, 140 on the motorway. We should be doing something in the region of about 60 maximum. And when you are behind a car, science tells us that within 100 kilometers per hour, the minimum distance between you and the other car in front of you, the rear car, the back of the vehicle ahead of you, should be about 80 meters when you are doing over 100 kilometers per hour. But we see every vehicle following at an average of 10 meters behind another car. You cannot be able to attain the 2 minutes minimum reaction time when suddenly the vehicle ahead of you slows or brakes. So we should also help ourselves. The record of the accident on the motorway can be reduced drastically, even about 80%, by the human judgment and application of our common sense to our right leg, which is actually on the accelerator.
Thank you.
So we need to constantly be telling drivers that the motorway is gone. Please apply the basic common sense and lift your leg off the pedal and drive with a minimum speed that can safely take you home until government realizes money to do the construction on the road.
Thank you very much.
One other thing, the interministerial, that's the local government, which has the assemblies underneath them, the ECG under the Ministry of Energy and Power, and then the Ministry of Roads and Highways should enhance their collaboration. Because we are realizing a lot of new road being constructed, and the extent of relocating pipelines, ECG cables, is ballooning the cost of the project. So Ghanaians would wonder why a road which is maybe 100 million becomes 130 million. It's because of the extent of relocation of newly constructed ECG cables or lines, pylons, Ghana Water Company Limited.
Engineer Mahama,
it's because they are not correlating very well.
Unfortunately, that's what time would allow us, Engineer Mahama. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll continue with the conversation. And also thank you very much, Engineer David Adonteng, who's Acting Director General of the National Road Safety Authority. Fred Smith is here. You're leading this project. We've had the first of it. What's to come after this?
Well, first of all, we have heard lots of explanations as to why the road is like that and why we have missed lots of the promises to fix it. But I still have a concern, and I know I say so on behalf of the thousands, if not the millions, who use the Accra-Tema Motorway. The fact that we set up a fund, the road fund, to generate enough revenue so that we're able to fix our roads when they're going bad, or to fix even construct new ones. But anytime we have a problem, we realize that that money is not available. Why? That's a big concern. We need to address that. If the fund was set up mainly to fix roads, let's keep it there and use it to fix roads. If the fund was set up mainly for national health, let's keep it there. Whatever the purpose is, let's keep it there. Can you imagine, Winston, that we go to the IMF. A fund has been set up to support countries when they are in difficulty. And then you get there, and the IMF tells you we have used it to support something else. Just like we're going for the IMF support now.
Fred, thank you very much. And we'll continue the conversation